everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we continue with Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. Before we start, of course, all the Torah that is taught from this goes to the protection and the security of our soldiers, Tzva Haganah Yisrael, good ones, and also to the safe return of the hostages, and also for the protection and security of all Israel, wherever they may be. Hallelujah Adonai kol goyim shabechu kol ha'omim ki gavar alenu chasdo ve'emet Adonai le'olam hallelujah. So we are in chapter 46. This is 46e, and this one is called "And Satan Said." On the day the Torah was given to Israel, Satan said, before the Holy One, blessed be He, Master of the universe, over all the wicked you have given me permission or authority, and over the righteous you have not given me permission. Now, as we know, Satan does not have, he does have a name, and we discussed it here in earlier teachings of Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, and other teachings as well. His name breaks down into two parts, okay? It always ends with an L, right? Just because he's an angel, but it starts with Sema and then El. You don't want to say that together, okay? You don't want to invoke anything, all right? But El means power and strength. Now, the way it's spelled is Samech, and he's also referred to as the Samech Mem in Hebrew because it spells Samech Mem and then El, right? So we also learned why his name is divided into two. We learned that in the end, when death is removed from the world, death, the angel of death, the Satan, they are one and the same, will be shechted, slaughtered by a kosher slaughter by God, cutting him in half, removing the samech mem part, the sum of his name, in Hebrew, which means drug. Samim are drugs. Sum is drug, right? And El will remain, thereby redeeming him and returning him to his former glory. If you guys missed those earlier teachings, it was Satan before he became the Satan that we know so well today, who volunteered to be the bad guy, the accuser of men, for the sake of heaven. Okay, those are in the earlier teachings of Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. All the other angels were riled up at how God can give the world to such a flawed creation as man. It was Satan who said, I'll be the fall guy, and it is I who will be the one to cause them to stumble. In other words, someone needs to take the fall. Let it be me. Though we do so on our own, like we said, heaven needed a fall guy later on. And so the highest of all angels, the one who covers, willingly gave himself to become death, impurity, and unholiness incarnate, from the day Adam was created until the end of time as we know it. So again, Satan, an agent of God, doing his job. Now, back to our text. When Satan said to God that he gave him authority over all the wicked, who was he talking about? He was talking about the nations. And why are the nations considered wicked? Because every last one of the nations came against Israel over the course of history. Now, please, I want to make a clear distinction between the nations as a whole, which we're not talking about the countries of today. The 70 nations from the time of dispersion, right? We're not talking about all the nations, meaning everybody today, and the righteous individuals from the nations, which, thank God, there are many. Okay, there's a very clear distinction here. We call these righteous individuals, we call them Chasidei Umot HaOlam, the pious among the nations of the world. And how does one attain such a title and recognition that comes with it? Save a Jew. Save one life from Israel, it's as if you saved an entire world. What these people did was put their own lives at risk in order to save a Jew or many Jews. And so though they are from the nations, they have a very special place with God. This is not to say that you actually have to save, like literally save the life of a Jew to find favor with God. Obviously not. Just be a good moral person. Live according to the 7 Noahide laws. This way you secure yourself a place in the world to come. This is very simple. But the nations as a whole, also, we also read clearly in the end times prophecies that they will all every last one of them, yes, all means all, will come together in order to destroy their common enemy, Israel. So yes, that means America too. Sorry. And who are the righteous? And yes, I know I said I'm not talking about the countries today, but when it means all, that means everyone who is not Israel will come upon Israel, wherever they may be from, even from within Israel. Erev Rav, we know this. Who are the righteous? We know the answer to that, don't we? Okay. Isaiah 60, verse 21, and your people, Israel, V'amcha, all of them are righteous. Kulam tzadikim, shall inherit the land forever. A sign of my planting, the work of my hands, in which I will glory, says God. This is straight up Israel, plain and simple. But not everyone from Israel is considered righteous, as there are wicked ones from Israel as well. And he's talking about whoever remains after the purification process and because of it will be considered righteous. Okay, so it's not everybody who is Israel today, because I'd say a good, 50, 60% of everybody today, they're not even real Jews, but whatever. Now, how did this whole separation between Israel and the nations take place? Before God gave the Torah to Israel, he went to each and every one of the ministering angels of the 70 nations, 72 rather, and then asked them if they wanted to receive the Torah. Each minister asked, well, what's in it for me, right? You know the story, we told it over here. While Israel said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear, in that order. So essentially it was Israel who chose God while the nations rejected him. So again, on the day the Torah was given to Israel, Satan said before the Holy One, blessed be he, Master of the universe, over all the wicked you have given me authority, and over the righteous you have not given me authority. Satan stated the obvious when he said that God gave him authority over all the nations. But not only that, he gave him a piece of them as well. Every nation has a ministering angel. God didn't go to all the nations and all the people in the nations. He went to all the ministering angels of the nations, which represent the nations. Every nation has a ministering angel. Every angel has a name. And as we've learned in the past teachings, the angel of Esav, who is Edom, Adom, red, who is Rome, who is the Roman Catholic Church, who is Christianity, is Satan himself. So Satan is the ministering angel over Christianity and its origins. All this was discussed in the Red series. And so there are 70 nations, but they do not include Esav, the son of Isaac, and Ishmael, the son of Abraham, as they both reside over the 70, thereby making the total 72. Which means that Satan not only has a say, but tremendous sway over all the world. This we know. Because like we said, they all have something in common. Their enemy, God's firstborn son, Israel. Satan is asking God why he was not giving authority to dwell among them like the rest of the world. Why can't I be among them like this? I do with everybody else. To influence their actions and decisions like the rest of the world. So what does God answer? God told him, I give you authority over them on Yom Kippurim, right? That you want authority on this day, do as you will. If, and only if, they have sin found among them. But if not, if no sin can be found among them, then you do not have authority over them. What does this show us? If Israel does what we need, if we do what we need to do, which is to live a life of Torah according to the liberating commandments that God gave us, Satan cannot influence us. But hold on now. Even if Israel do not live according to the Torah, Satan still has no influence over us because we do so of our own volition. We don't say Satan made me do it because that would be a lie. This was his whole argument to God. But this is also a warning to us. When we step out of line, we do so on our own because we have been given blessings and a curse. We are the ones that make the choice. I'm talking about Israel right now. That's why God told Satan, you know what? I'll give you one day that you can do with them as you will, but you know how this dynamic works, right? And that day was Yom Kippurim. As our text says next, And for that reason, we give Satan a bribe on Yom Kippurim. And what is a bribe if not to get someone to look the other way? As said in Proverbs 21:14 regarding this instance. Matan baseter yichape af, you remember af, v'shochad bachok chema azah. Remember chema? Angels of destruction. A gift in secret will appease wrath, and a bribe in the pocket will even appease strong wrath. Terrible translations, but you get the point. Do we recall the angels of destructions, right? Af and chema from a few classes ago? Okay. They are but an extension of Satan himself, as Solomon continues in the next two verses in Proverbs. It is a joy for a righteous man to do judgment, and a ruin for those who commit violence. A man who strays from the way of understanding will rest in the congregation of the shades. What does it say in Hebrew? Adam to'eh miderech haskel bikahal refaim yanuach. Who are the refaim, the shades or shadows, as it is translated? But the children of the Giborim, the mighty, who are the children of the Nephilim, the fallen, who are the children of the Anakim, the giants, who are the children of who? The two fallen angels, Azza and Azazel, also known as Azazel. And for that reason, we give Satan a bribe on Yom Kippurim, in order not to cancel the offering of Israel, as said in Leviticus 16:7-8. And he shall take the two goats and place them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron shall place lots upon the two goats, one lot for the Lord, the other lot for Azazel. Okay? Who is Azazel? From Numbers 13:31. Azazel or Azael. Numbers 13:31. There we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, descendants from the giants. V'sham ra'inu et hanefilim, the fall. Again, terrible translation. Et hanefilim, Nephilim, the fallen, the sons of Anak from min hanefilim, meaning from the fallen angels. Right? In our eyes seem like grasshoppers, and so we seem like this in their eyes. What does Rashi say about this? The Nephilim, the giants who were from the sons of Shamhazai, aka Azza, and Azael, aka Azazel, who fell from heaven in the generation of Enosh. Do you think these two fallen angels left? No, they did not. They are still here in the dark mountains of the west, as said in Zohar Balak and other ancient books. In fact, if you do read Zohar Balak, they're still there, helping out humanity. The best of us. Okay, so anyway, go check it out. So there are details over there also how Bilam would exactly receive all his powers and his knowledge through them. So the lot of God ascends in the form of Korban Olah, right? Which Olah means to ascend. And the lot of Azazel is a sin offering that descends. And all the sins of Israel were upon that he-goat that went to Azazel, as said in Leviticus 16:22. The he-goat shall thus carry upon itself all their sins to the precipitous land, and he shall send off the he-goat into the desert. Why is that necessary? Like what we just said, if you follow this, it will not stop what is going up. So let me tell you, not for any bad deeds or physical actions that Israel would commit on that day. In fact, a day where all of Israel are fasting and in prayer. In any case, there is no sin being committed in an ideal world, right? Plus, we are commanded to repent and confess every day of the year. So what gives? What you forget is that even our very thoughts can give us away. That's right. We are not responsible for our own thoughts. Yes, we are responsible for our own thoughts. Of course we are. I know for a fact, as do many of you, that the nations believe that the Holy Spirit lives inside them all the time, even when they go to the bathroom. Not only is this inaccurate, as this is not at all how it works, but the moment that you have even a single unclean thought, it doesn't have to be about something even filthy. Just a moment of anything but perfect concentration, it's gone, it's over. Okay? Let alone a glance at something unholy. The true spirit of holiness leaves your presence immediately. And we're talking about Jews, holy Jews. The nations of the world are by default unholy, which comes down even to circumcision, because the foreskin itself is affiliated with Adam's first wife, she who shall not be named, which is why we are commanded to remove it. So no, it is impossible for the true spirit of holiness to reside with anyone from the nations, no matter how holy or pious they may think they are. And I'm not excluding Israel from this category as well, all right? We know that in today's world, Ruach HaKodesh resides with almost no man. Because of the levels of filth that is everywhere, it is simply impossible. You cannot go anywhere today and see something that is unholy. And that is why the goat is necessary for Israel during Yom Kippurim, the Day of Atonement, not because we would physically go out and sin on that day, but because of what may or may not go through our minds, even for a moment. I could tell you this from my personal experiences, and this is how it works. Usually, when we are doing the holiest of things, that's when the worst thoughts come into our mind. This is by design. What is that he-goat for? For whatever goes through our minds, to alleviate that from us. That is what that offering is for. Ezekiel 20:32. But what enters your mind shall not come about. What you say, let us be like the nations, like the families of the lands, to serve wood and stone. Of the nations, wood, the cross, Christians, stone, the Muslims. So the goat for Azazel is for our deeds throughout the year. And the goat that ascends to God is to cover Israel's potential thoughts on that very day. And on that very day, as our text continues, Satan saw that no sin was found among them on Yom Kippurim. The very day that God gave Satan full authority over Israel. Have at it. This is why it says that God shuts his mouth. It doesn't literally shut his mouth, but no, I got nothing. And you better believe he's going to be investigating us with a magnifying glass during that day. And so even if there is the tiniest imperfection, as we say in Hebrew, halach aleinu, it's over for us. He, Satan, said before the Holy and Blessed be he, master of the universe, you have one nation in the world who are likened to the ministering angels in heaven. Why would he say that? Because all the sins have been cleared and even the thoughts have been cleansed. So, like the angels. You see how God got Satan himself to compare Israel to the angels? Good stuff, right? What happens to the goat with the sins placed on it for Azazel? He's taken out to the wilderness and led to the top of a cliff at a specific spot where he's then pushed off the cliff. Our sages say that the goat does not even reach the bottom before the angels of destruction rip the goat to shreds midair, because that's where the sin is. It just combusts. Everything gets swallowed up. However, during the times of the Second Temple, especially before the destruction, the goat that was thrown did not combust on its way down. In fact, it didn't even die at all when it hit the bottom. That's how upset God was with us. So the man who threw it would descend the cliff and kill the goat, defeating the purpose, yes? This meant that Israel's sins were not forgiven and the destruction of the Second Temple was soon to follow. Satan continued and said about Israel before God on Yom Kippurim, just as the ministering angels do not have knees, so too Israel who stand on Yom Kippurim. So yes, I said that angels don't have needs. And now you know. Don't have knees. Now you know, right? The reason is they don't need knees, do they? Don't get confused, meaning they're always standing before God. But we're not talking about when they take on human form in our physical realm, okay? We're talking about in the spiritual world. They are always standing. Vayamod, vayamod, vayamod. And he stood and he stood and he stood. Even in the book of Daniel, right? Satan continues. Just as the ministering angels do not eat and drink, so too Israel do not eat and drink on Yom Kippurim. That's pretty self-explanatory. Just as the ministering angels are clean of any sin, so too Israel are clean from all sin on Yom Kippurim. Just as the ministering angels are mediated by peace between them, so too Israel are mediated by peace. But we recall what happened, right? On our last Yom Kippurim, right? Before October the 7th in Tel Aviv, yes? Okay. There was no peace. Just remember that. Look what followed. Again, something like that, I don't recall ever hearing about something that terrible. But ideally, in the past, when we were at our best, and yes, we had peace between us, even if nothing more than due to the fact that no one spoke to one another. But we're all focused on prayer, because that's what we do on Yom Kippur. We stand all day and we pray. That's it. There's no talk, there's no nothing. But what does this verse actually mean? Peace between us. We know very well that if you got beef with your fellow man and you do not resolve it before Yom Kippurim, then that day cannot help you. God is saying very clearly that he will not listen to us if we don't have peace amongst ourselves. And that is why during the 10 days of repentance, even before Rosh Hashanah, right? You do some soul searching and you contact everybody that you know. You ask them for forgiveness, even if you don't think that you did anything wrong. And we say, hey, if I hurt you, if I did anything to offend you in any way, if I was unaware, please forgive me. I never meant to hurt you. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. It's always like, of course I forgive you. There's no problem. You didn't do anything to offend you. And so too I, if I did anything. And really, and we actually mean this sincerely because, well, there was that time, but I got over it. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. It's all good. Thank you for, we have to do this. All right. There's always first a ben adam lechavero, man between his fellow man, before you go ben adam lemakom. This way, we come before the judge clean, or as clean as can be, because we did our hishtadlut, our due diligence. We tried. We can only try. Because it's not God who is going to accuse you of this, but the accuser. So don't give him any room to do so. Remember, we are all God's children, and no father wants to see his sons quarrel, let alone come and ask him for favors before we make peace with one another. This, mind you, is what everything is about. Peace holds the key to everything. Look at what David said on the matter in Psalms 34. Come, children, hearken to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is the man who desires life, who loves days to see goodness? Guard your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceitfully. Shun evil, do good, seek peace, and pursue it. Bakesh shalom veradfehu. The pursuit of peace is the bottom line of a long and prosperous life. That is the secret right there. And in the end of everything, Yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Because when we have that, especially on Yom Kippurim, when we then come clean before our Father, and there's no one around to dispute that, as our text continues and says, and the Holy One, blessed be He, hears the plea of Israel from their own advocate. Who is Israel's own advocate? But the great angel Michael, which we can see in Daniel 12:1. Now at that time, Michael, the great prince, who stands over the children of your people, that's Israel, will be silent. What do we say? Who stands? Ya'amod. Angels always stand. Will be silent, and it will be a time of distress that never was since the nation existed until that time. And at that time, your people will escape, everyone who is found inscribed in the book. Michael, who stands on the right, is called the high priest of Israel, spiritually speaking. He's above where the priesthood is, that's on the right. Just like the high priest of Israel, right, brings the offerings before God upon the altar to atone for Israel, Michael, the high priest in the heavens, brings Israel before God. So, as we were saying, and the Holy One, blessed be He, hears the plea of Israel from their own advocate, and He atones from them upon the altar for the priests and all the other people of the congregation, from the great ones to the least of them, as said in Leviticus 16:13. And He shall effect atonement upon the Holy of Holies, and He shall effect atonement upon the tent of meeting, and upon the altar, and He shall effect atonement upon the Kohanim, and upon all the people of the congregation. Now, that's our text for this class, but we're not done yet. You guys know that game Simon Says, right? Okay. Only when you hear Simon Says, do you do what Simon said. That's the point that I want to make over here. As we need to pay attention to who is speaking. What did Satan say? And the reason I say this is because you're going to take this with you out into the world, and you're going to use your God-given discernment on this matter. Now listen. Satan said, see, I guess it matters how I read it. Satan said, before the Holy One, blessed be He, Master of the universe, you have one nation in the world who are likened to the ministering angels in heaven. Great, right? He then proceeds to list all the comparisons between Israel and the ministering angels, from their physical features to their spiritual elevation, to their purity, to their actions. Does Satan lie? Of course he does. It is his job to twist the truth just enough for you to think that you are serving God, but really you're serving him. Deviant worship. I wanted to go there. I think it's there, but I got to go through someone else. Therefore, his lies are based on truth, and his truth mixed with lies. And within all that, there is, of course, an agenda. Case in point, please hear me out, Christianity, okay? The New Testament, a lie based on Torah, the truth. No Torah, no Christianity, right? What are you going to base it on? What are you going to start on, right? The New Testament is the same book that the world received from the Roman Empire that rebranded themselves as the Roman Catholic Church. Same book, that's where you got it from. An institution where anyone with half a brain can clearly see that it directly contradicts the Torah. There's no problem with that because Christians say, yeah, it's all been done away with, right? No problem. It's a direct contradiction. The Torah doesn't go away. It's there. So what is this coming later on? Now, there are two real messiahs, Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. This is the truth. And they are based on that, the lie, that is Jebus, right? Jebus allegedly quoted and also plenty of times misquoted Torah, truth, and based on that partial truth, undid everything that God said. I gave you plenty of examples in the Red series. I do not expect Christians to see this, let alone understand this, because this is their faith. They believe this, right? There's no reasoning with belief. And I also have to say this again. I have nothing against Christians, people who believe this. Against the people. I believe that the majority are good people. My issue is with this institution. In fact, I am certain that when their world falls apart, we've talked about this as existential crisis, that is, I know things, okay? When their world falls apart, when they finally see the truth, as God will reveal to them and to the whole world, that everything they believed was a lie, there will be those who come to where they truly belong, into the fold of Israel, as the only thing that was standing in their way was the idol, Jebus. That's it. We're talking about the 10 lost tribes here. They're embedded within Christianity. But they, like most of the world, cannot see that they are embedded so deeply in that system that they believe that they are free. But anyone who does not believe, as they do, they're slaves, right? I don't believe so. You're going to hell. You're going to hell. Everybody's going to hell if you don't believe in my denomination. Now, I can easily say the same thing as far as I'm concerned, right? I'm not saying that everybody else is going to hell, obviously. You know what I teach here. Except there is one major difference. I have the Torah to back up my claims, a book which they supposedly believe in. While I do not recognize anything of the New Testament or its contents as legitimate at all. Again, see the Red series, too many holes, sorry. And that's better for them, because once you open up that book, there's so many holes it becomes comical. That's why debating this is futile. Asking questions, though, for the sake of the truth, that's a different story entirely, which is why I said, email me if you got them. For real, I will talk to you. The reason I chose Christianity as a prime example of how Satan does things, in addition to the obvious, is because Satan himself, like I said, is the ministering angel of Edom, Rome, the Roman Catholic Church, and all of its 42,000 and counting denominations. They all read the same book. But like we said before, not only is Satan a personal guardian and governing angel of Edom, but he is the prime governing angel over the rest of the 70 ministering angels of the nations. Are you seeing it yet? Are you ready for this? Satan said, before the Holy and Blessed be He, Master of the universe, over all the wicked, the 70 nations, you have given me authority. And over the righteous, Israel, you do not give me authority. So he was thinking, clearly I have authority over all the other ministering angels of the nations, but not Israel. What if I compare Israel to be like the ministering angels? Then God might give me authority over them as well. Satan said before the Holy One, blessed be He, Master of the universe, you have one nation in the world who are likened to the ministering angels in heaven. You see, Satan did not do Israel a favor when he compared us to ministering angels, though you might think that he did. Never forget who says what, people. Always pay attention to who is speaking. Look at the person's actions and their words. If a leader who stood against Israel in any way seemingly turns around and either does or says something that goes against his nature, that is highly suspect behavior. You can't say, for instance, that you support Israel and do everything to help Israel, but you don't give ammunition to Israel. See what I'm saying? It's stupid. Forget the fact that this whole thing is theater, but like, what? And people are actually buying this because this is a topic of discussion. If any person for no reason just flips their own script, you know better than to just believe them. There is always an agenda. But we love flattery, don't we? Always pay attention to who is speaking, what they're saying, and when they are saying it. If you calculate those three things, you will know why they are saying what they want, meaning you're going to see their agenda at that moment, which is why those that do this, the sociopaths of this world, great and small, will never just deliver this straight up, but always cause confusion and then speak through the confusion, dropping hints of truth. They'll be, oh, well, that's true because that's how our brains work. Well, if that's true, then the rest must be true. Stop for a moment and think. Spread this out and be like, oh, you're totally full of it, aren't you? Yeah, okay. You have been warned. Don't forget who's talking. And don't forget to educate yourself on the subject matter or on the agenda. After all, to our case, who is on a higher level anyway? Regardless of all this, who's on a higher level? The ministering angels or Israel? See what I'm saying? Israel, of course. And our potential beyond that is quite literally limitless. So even if he meant it in a good way, which he did not, and not in a sneaky way with an agenda, which he had, it's still not a compliment. You see, the truth is always in plain sight. It's too powerful to be hidden, only skewed and partially covered up at times to be taken out of context, like that other thing that was slapped onto ours. And besides, do you think that God needed Satan to actually tell him how awesome his people were? Even if he had ulterior motives? No, of course he did not. But he let him do that anyway. And that, for us, is a blessing. Just like Bilam, God allowed him because, what, I need you to bless my kids? You're going to bless my kids. That's what's happening right now. So the world knows that you did, even though we know what you tried to do. And thus concludes today's class. I hope you did enjoy it. Have a meaningful fast. Pray for a quiet one. And I want to tell you just one crazy thing that's happening in Israel right now. So our Israeli courts, who are totally not Erev Rav, are now, there's a lawsuit against a bunch of Israelis who on October 7th, who were not soldiers, but on October 7th came to where the slain were, and they picked up the weapons of our dead soldiers and they started fighting back against the Hamas terrorists. So now they're being prosecuted by our courts. I shame our courts. By the courts here, no joke, for murdering murderers. The people that came in and raped and pillaged and tortured and murdered, their judgment is they murdered terrorists. Can you murder a terrorist? I wonder. I know in the States, if someone breaks into your home, you shoot them in the face, you get off, right? No problem. That's what happened. This is where we're living right now, just so you understand. So whatever's to come, what, do we not deserve that? Do they not deserve that? Absolutely. So let's see. Shivasal B'Tammuz, extremely hard time for us. Like I said, pray for a quiet one, though. Anyway, I guess we'll see. So thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Be safe. Bye-bye.